Hi, welcome to episode 60 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. I'm Laura, also known as Fluffy Kira on Twitter and Instagram, Fluffy K on Ravelry. I blog over at the Corner of Knit and Tea, and that's where this episode's show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called the Stash Buckler Adventures in Yarn, where I sell my hand-spun yarns. And we have a Ravelry group called the Corner of Knit and Tea. If you haven't come over and check us out, please do. Hi! It has been so long since I have recorded. Everything that you saw while I was away on vacation was recorded before I left, so it has been over 3 weeks, and I have completely missed recording, and I have missed all of you, and I feel very rusty, so we'll have to see how today goes. I hope that you have had a wonderful few weeks. We had an amazing time on our vacation. We left on Monday, October 12th, and we set out to do a big road trip of tons of national parks and monuments here in the United States. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen pictures of our travels. From our home in Kansas, we went north to South Dakota, and then we journeyed across South Dakota and saw the Badlands, and we stopped and saw Mount Rushmore and Custer State Park and the Crazy Horse Memorial. And then we headed out across Wyoming and went to Devil's Tower. And then we headed all the way across Wyoming and went into Yellowstone and spent a full day driving around the park and seeing the sights. And then we journeyed just a little bit into Idaho to see the Craters of the Moon National Park, which is volcanic and lava flow out in the middle of nowhere in Idaho. And that was pretty nice. And then we journeyed down through Utah, down to southern Utah, and saw all the red sand parks. We tried to go to Bryce, although the weather didn't cooperate that day, so we didn't get to see very much. But we spent the remainder of our time in Grand Staircase and Escalante, and we have plans to go back to that area because there are several other parks that we actually didn't get to see because of our limited time. That took us all the way up to the beginning of week 2, and then we had to head down to, our eventual goal was to end up in San Antonio, Texas for a friend of the family wedding. So we went down through Arizona, and we actually stopped one night in Tempe and were able to have dinner with Liz, who is the travel correspondent over on Come Knit With Us podcast with Kim and Sam. Unfortunately, Kim and Sam had other things to do that evening, so it was just us and Liz, but we had a wonderful time. And then from there, we went over to El Paso for an evening, and then went to Junction, which is a couple hours outside of San Antonio. And then we were in San Antonio for a couple evenings, and we stayed in the historic Menger Hotel, which is right next to the Alamo. Downtown. It was kind of fun. It's a very old hotel, and they were giving ghost tours and all kinds of things leading up to Halloween. And my family was actually there. We all got invited to the wedding, so I got to see my parents, and my sister was in the wedding, as was Roxy. She was a flower girl. And so we got to hang out with them for a couple days, which was just fabulous, and the wedding was beautiful. Our friend is now married off, and I hope she's having a wonderful time with her new husband. And then we did one Sunday, which was a really, really long drive from San Antonio to home. That was about 14 hours, so I got lots of knitting done in the car on the way, although I drove some of it. And we arrived home about 10 o'clock Sunday evening, and my husband, the stinker, still had another week off, but I had to go back to work. So this week I went back to work, and quite a few things happened in my absence. So this week was crazy busy at work, and I did not get as much done this week as I wanted to, but you know, such is life. So, and my husband was off this week, and he is getting ready to go back to work tomorrow after 4 weeks off, and I have to tell you, I do not envy him one bit. So we had a wonderful vacation, and the nice thing is that now we're getting into the holidays part of the year. We will travel to Los Angeles to be with my family for Thanksgiving. Christmas will be a quiet affair. It will be at our house, and my in-laws will come, but we won't take a lot of time off or travel, which is actually just fine with me. I am happy to have quiet holidays. But there will be some quiet time at work, and also it feels like generally the end of the year just gets broken up because there are so many parties and just things going on, and a few days off work here and a few days off there, and even like the week around Christmas, it will be so quiet at work that I'll go, but it won't feel like work so much. So that is what's been going on here. I have been super extra special crafty with all those hours in the car, and I have tons to show you and talk about. I also, before I get started, I want to say thank you so much to all of you for your wonderful response to my pattern, Lost at Sea. I am really touched how many of you reached out to me, and I hope that you will knit the pattern and that you will enjoy it. I know that Louette has been sending some kits, although they're back ordered on some of the colors. So that's been a bit of a problem, but I hope that you will use your own hand spun and create your own colorways. And if you do, please, please, please earburn me or send me a message, show me what you're doing, because I would love to see it. And I will draw for the prize at the end of this episode, so stay tuned because I do have that giveaway. So let's get into the podcast. I have a feeling this may be a long one. This week, I am drinking one of my souvenir teas. We went to Mount Rushmore, and my husband said, "Hey, there's tea." This is designed, it looks like, by someone called the Tea Can Company. And what it is it's a can with a whole variety of teas, and they have them all listed on the back. And the deal is that it is individually packaged single packets of tea. So the one I decided to drink today is raspberry oolong. And the ingredients include oolong tea with raspberry flavor, apple bits, cranberry bits, and hibiscus. And this is the Tea Can Company. And I will link that in the notes. And I am using my fabulous knitting circle mug, which I love. And I will put links to this in the show notes. This is a potter in Scotland, I believe. And I will link to that. But so I've got my raspberry oolong Mount Rushmore tea, souvenir tea in my mug. Ooh, that is very nice. I probably could have let it steep a little bit longer to give it a little bit more flavor, but it definitely has a raspberry flavor. It's really, really nice. Oh, excuse me. That was not a good move. Okay. As I recover, I guess I inhaled a little bit, and I wasn't really supposed to do that. Don't inhale your tea. Let's try one more sip to see if that fixes it. Much better. So, before I left, I was working on a test knit hat, and I showed it to you in yellow and said that I was knitting it as a charity hat. I ran out of yarn. I did not have enough. I really got myself good. I did not have enough of that yellow yarn to get through the test pattern. So I went and pulled a different skein out of my stash. I had some leftover Cascade 220. This is not superwash, in this super, super, super bright pink. I had used it to make a stuffed felted flamingo. So I pulled it out and I went ahead and finished the pattern. I wish I had a name for you, but the designer has not finished naming it. She has been ill, so she has not gotten the pattern up. It is a very simple kind of slouchy beanie with a great cable pattern on one panel. I really enjoyed this. I will pop a link in as soon as she names it and puts up the final. This took about, I want to say I was at 143 yards when I weighed it. It is a great slouchy hat for winter, and boy, is it bright. Everyone will see you coming. This pink is just electric. So that is the first finished object that I had for this vacation. I did, however, want to do a few more charity hats. I am up to 11 and 12 to finish my 12 charity hats for the year, and it is starting to get chilly. It has been getting down into the 30s and 40s in the evening here. and I want to give my friend the hats for the kids. So I worked on 2 more hats, both of these, the yellow and blue on this one is Knit Picks. There's a little bit of blue from the blanket I was knitting, and I will talk about that. That's that's Ella Rae Classic Superwash Merino, but I did 2 hats. This is the Ribberoni Pat by Jane Tanner. It is a freebie on Ravelry, and it comes in a variety of sizes, and it just made for a great kind of stocking cap beanie, and I think I had to cut this one short by just a couple rows because I was running out of the yellow, but I was just trying to use up some scraps and make some stuff that kids would enjoy. So that is hats 11 and 12. Ugh. Woo, I really got myself. That is hats 11 and 12 for my year of charity hat knitting, and I'm going to keep this up for next year. I have a bunch of leftovers from the blanket that I was trying to do, and I got some other superwash merino. That'll be a story for later. So I am going to keep this up in 2016, I guess. I will start knitting them now, but I have a whole bag of hats, and I'm going to try and meet with my friend in the next week or 2 so that I can give her these. So that's 2 more in the books for that. Finally, in the category of hats, I ran across this pattern when it debuted, which was a couple months ago, and it was being offered for free. It is now $3.50 on Ravelry. The hat is called Mickey or Minnie Inspired Hat by Johanna Miner. And it was a super cute hat written for newborn sizes, and I sort of extrapolated up because my little Miss Roxy is an absolute Minnie fan. She went as Minnie for Halloween this weekend, and she is super excited about Minnie Mouse. And so it is this adorable, it's basically just a regular hat, and then you've got pom-poms for the ears and a bow, and I am planning to give this to her for Christmas, so it will keep her warm, but it is just the cutest thing ever. So that is the Mickey or Minnie inspired hat, and it is so cute. I just tickled myself silly with this. So that is the 4th and final hat for the time that I have been away. Next up, under finished objects, I was working on my Blueberry Waffle Socks. Pattern by Sandy Turner is a freebie, and it's actually written for thicker weight yarn, but I decided to use sock weight yarn. This is Hedgehog Fibers, their twist sock in the pistachio colorway, so I am calling them pistachio waffle socks. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there is kind of a minty green, there's a little bit of a sort of tealy green, and then there's pops of brown and pink, and they are just super fun. I maybe in the minority in that I did not enjoy knitting these so much. I found it like knitting and all over ribbing, and that was just slow. It just didn't go as fast as I wanted it to. But I did really, really want them. I love the way they look, and I cannot wait to wear them. So that is another pair of socks in the books. What else do I have to show you? Oh, I did show you before I left that skein of odds and ends that I had hand spun that I was going to use to make mini mittens, and I did make a variety of mini mittens. I make these to sell as Christmas ornaments, and I sell them at our local craft show, which is coming up in a couple weeks. And what I had done was I had a skein of leftovers from all the different things that I had spun, and I applied all the little bits and ends of bobbins together so that I had one big skein of just mishmash, and I wouldn't know what was coming next. And I just went ahead and knit mini mittens from it and from a few other scraps that I had. And my goal was to knit 1 mitten a day on our trip. We were gone for 14 days and I came home with 11. So I didn't quite make it, but I came home with 11 more than I had before, and I had done 8 or 9 before that. So I have about 20 new mittens to sell this year. And for me, that's good enough. So those are those. I did not quite finish that skein, so I could knit a few more if I wanted to, but at least for right now, I am set. So that is a bunch of mini mittens and maybe about 200 yards worth of work. The final project, I promise I'm almost done with FOs, but it's been 3 weeks. The final project I will just have to show you a picture of because it is a blanket that I knit, and my husband actually already donated it. As part of his sabbatical, he needs to spend 1 week of his 4 weeks doing something charitable. So he decided that he wanted to donate blankets to a local children's hospital, and he bought a ton of those, the polar fleece blankets where you snip them and then knot the corners, or knot the edges. So he did a bunch of those while we were on vacation, and I went ahead and knit a blanket to be donated as well. This is the zigzag scarf that I knit earlier this year. It is by Christy Cam. It is a free pattern. And what I did was I just added a ton more repeats and basically knit a fun chevron blanket. The yarn that I used was I keep wanting to say Classic Leak. Ella Rae Superwash Classic in the colorways Olive and I think Marine Heather. And I had bought them from Webb's when Webb's was having a closeout sale on them. So I got them for a great price and just striped them together. Ella Rae Superwash Classic is probably almost like Cascade 220 Superwash. But I have to say that I wasn't completely pleased with the quality of the yarn. There were a lot of slubs, there were some knots. It wasn't the most pleasant yarn to work with, to be quite honest. It made a nice blanket, and I already sent it through the washer before I sent it to the hospital for donation, and it softened up and it made a nice blanket, but I had to say that working with it was not really my favorite, and I suspect in the future I will stick to Cascade 220 Superwash because I like that one quite a bit for garments that need to be able to be washed and dried and kind of easy care, as it were. So that was the final FO of the trip. So I did lots and lots and lots of knitting while we were gone. Now that I am home and I have finished all of those projects, it is time for something new. The first thing, today is November 1st, which means it is now Nanny Swimo month. That is National Knit a Sweater in a Month. The whole concept was coined by Shannon Oakey, who is Knit Girl, who started this quite a few years ago. And she reasoned that the fiction writers have NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month, where they try to write a novel in a month and upload it to the NaNoWriMo site. So her, and basically the deal is that you can't start before November 1st. You have to finish before November 30th, and your novel has to be 50,000 words. Shannon took this and translated it to the knitting world. You cannot cast on before November 1st. You have to cast off by November 30th, and your sweater has to be 50,000 stitches. I have participated since 2009, and I have been a moderator since, I think, 2011. It's been several years now over in the group, and we are super excited. November is sweater month. So I thought I had picked out what I wanted to do, and then I kind of changed my mind, and then I kind of changed it back. And so what I have been doing is a million swatches, and this morning I cast on for a sweater. However, yesterday I cast on for a small sweater for Roxy. I have been talking for ages now about knitting her the owl sweater pattern by Kate Davies. And originally I was going to use the owlet sweater pattern. It's just a cute sweater that has cables that look like owls around. And I was going to take her owlet pattern and I was going to modify it to be a cardigan because I think a cardigan is much easier with a toddler. And 2 months ago, Kate Davies came out with something that she called Wowligan, or Wee Owligan, which is an owl's cardigan. So I went ahead and bought that pattern, and cast on yesterday. I was anxious to cast on for something, and I wanted to do the owl sweater for Roxy for Christmas, and usually I see my family at Thanksgiving and not at Christmas, so I need to finish this by the end of the month. So I figured, why not do 2 sweaters this month? One of them will be a baby sweater, and one of them will be a larger sweater. So I chose, this is Knit Picks. It is in the indigo heather colorway, and it's really hard to see. It's a very, very dark bluey purple with a little bit of heathering in it. And I actually bought this to do this last year, and my sister asked for some hats and gloves and other things instead, so I put it off. But I need to knit the sweater soon because I only ordered 5 skeins of the same dye lot, and so I need to turn it into a sweater for Miss Roxy before I need more than 5 skeins. So I decided this year I'm going to do it. The pattern starts, I left off, let me finish these last couple stitches. The Wee Alligans is knit bottom up, and then you work in the yoke, and I'm not going to say too much more because it is a paid for pattern. I believe it was $6. So I cast on it yesterday, and I just have to say I love baby knits because I already have 4 inches of the body. This is the body from the bottom of the sweater, and it will also have a button band and whatnot, so it will be just a little bit wider, but that is what I have so far. And I have about 4 more inches to go on the body, and then I need to do the sleeves so I can add them in. So that is what I'm working on. I don't know exactly how long it will take me. It depends which project I get sucked into the most. But this is a super easy. I'm using US 7s because it's a worsted weight yarn, and it is rocking along. I should say the owlet pattern called for Aran weight yarn, and I bought worsted yarn. The Wee Owls cardigan, the Wowligan, actually calls for sport weight yarn. So I have been kind of messing with the math a little bit, and am recalculating as I go what to make for a 2-year-old sweater in worsted weight yarn. So of course I couldn't make it easy for myself, but you know. And then the final piece that I really absolutely love is I ordered some cute owl buttons to go on the cardigan. And I haven't decided if I'm going to put, in this one you can see that they put eyes on all of the owl cables. And I haven't really decided if I'm going to do that. I have seen a couple sweaters where they've put eyes just on one, like right at the front to kind of give the idea of it. And I might do that, but I don't think I'm going to put buttons on the whole thing. But I did want some owl buttons for the cardigan itself. So I have a couple packages of these. And actually they even came with some backing buttons. So I can go ahead and put backing buttons on there. So that is Roxy's Wowligan, and I'm sure you will see that more in the coming weeks, but I am super excited about that one, especially because it's working up so quickly. So the final cast on for me is my sweater for Nanny Swif, and I decided to knit a sweater that I have actually knit before. This is a knitting pure and simple pattern. It is the neck down V-neck shaped cardigan, and it looks like this. It is basically a very plain cardigan with some seed stitch detailing. I knit one of these, my previous one, actually it's right here. It was in Cash Soft DK in a burgundy. This was one of the first sweaters that I knit for myself. And I love it, and actually I still wear it today. The Cash Soft pilled a little bit, so there is a little bit of that, but I absolutely loved it, and I thought it would be perfect for my handspun. So for this sweater, I am using the handspun that I did during Tour de Fleece. This was a sweater quantity of Hello Yarn in a merino black silk in the colorway Waterweed, and it is dark and moody, and I'm having a hard time showing you the actual colors. It is blues and greens, and I cast on this morning and just started a little bit of the raglan shaping, and it's going to be really hard for you to see much here, but that is what it looks looks like so far. I do not have very much done, but I do have a meeting today that I have to go to for the craft show, and that usually proves to be a couple hours of them mostly talking to us and us mostly listening. And so I plan to bring my knitting with me and spend some time on that. So that is my sweater for the month. You will be seeing lots of that because those 2 sweaters are all I'm going to undertake right at this second. I do have a couple other things I may throw in if I think I'm making enough progress on all of these things. I have a million things I'm ready to knit. I came home and bought a ton of patterns and grabbed a ton of yarn and started making up little kits for all kinds of things I want to knit. I have a couple shawls, I have a cowl, I have another sweater that I swatched for, and the swatch is right here on the floor. Drying, and just all kinds of things that I want to knit and do. But I am also trying to approach this with a modicum of discretion because I do have the craft show coming up. I also I need to finish the Christmas gifts, and I will be traveling this month. It's going to be a busy month at work. So I know that if I cast on 12 things, I'm just going to sit and look at them and feel guilty. So for now, I'm going to stick with those 2 sweaters. Whew, it is 25 minutes in and I am still finishing up knitting. That is crazy. I should not take breaks from you guys for very long. So let's move over to spinning. I do not have nearly as much to show you in this area because I did not take my spinning wheel with me in deference to knitting. So I did no spinning for the 2 weeks that I was gone. And I was very happy to come home and see my spinning wheel again. I think I'm just going to grab a sip of tea and hopefully I won't choke on it again this time. Okay, so the final spin that I didn't get to show you finished because it was, I needed to ply it when I last podcast, was my final spin for Zilla, which was Southern Cross Fibers Bond and Merino Silk in the Lady Gray colorway. And that was named after tea, so that was super fun for me. It is a sport weight, right around 325 yards. It is blues and greens and browns, and I'm having a lot of trouble showing the colors here, but there are pictures on my Instagram, and this one is up in my shop if anyone is interested. This was the final spin for Zilla, which brought my total, I believe, to 3,744 Zilla yards. Just as a reminder, Zilla counts all of your singles and all of your plying. So that kind of double counts a lot of things. So for instance, for this skein, if it's 325 yards, I got, of a 2-ply, I got 325 times 2 for the singles, plus another 325 for the plying. So, I mean, it's a little misleading in terms of yardage. I felt like I did not do my best for the team, or I guess I shouldn't say I felt like I did not do my best for the team. I felt like compared to some of the other people on the team, I was not as much of a production spinner, and was a little worried about what I had submitted, and I shouldn't have because Team Louette won. Team Louette beat out Fancy Tiger Crafts, which has been the champion for 3 years running, and honestly, our team, which in no way was me, we had 2 of the highest yardage spinners on our team, and we spun over 271,000, but I might be off a little bit, yards. And again, that's Zilla yards, so you can divide it out. You know, it's not going to be quite that much actual yarn, but oh my goodness, that was just crazy. So it was very exciting to win, even though I totally did not expect that. And there have been some prizes and some fun. And that was kind of a fun thing to happen while I was gone and have my shawl go live. And actually Zilla promoted the shawl a little bit to spinners, which was super exciting. I kind of geeked out a little bit at that. But so that is what happened with spinning and Zilla. It was super exciting. So, moving on. I came home and immediately wanted to get something on the wheel, and this is something that I haven't shown you, although there are pictures in my Instagram feed. I had a set of 4 bats by Dripping Fiber Studios, who is Kim. She is lovely. I don't know how much she's doing bats right at this moment. She was really into them for a little while, and then actually she is also the owner of the Kicks and Giggles shop on Etsy that does great bags, project bags. So I don't know if she's more into the bags than the bats right now. I think her shop is still open, but I'm not really sure. Anyway, these were some club bats that I had gotten from someone. I think they were the June 2013 club bats. And they were a mix of a variety of fibers, and I forgot to bring the card with me. I know it's Corriedale, Shetland, Merino, something else. The club set had alpaca in it, but the set that I purchased was from someone who was allergic to alpaca, so it had no alpaca in it. And it was in blacks, tans, grays, and kind of an icy blue. And that is what it turned into. I'm thinking about calling it Black Sands, and it is just gorgeous. I do not know exact yardage, but I'm going to guess right around 300 yards of a roughly sport weight. And it is pretty. There are just little pops of blues, and then there are the tans and grays, and it's a very neutral skein, very unlike a lot of the things I spin, but it looked interesting and I wanted to try and do it. And the other thing that I love about Kim's bats are that she must put them through the carder quite a few times because they are super smooth. They do not have texture in them, so I am able to get a nice smooth spin on those. And this skein just came out really, really nicely. I'm going to photo it this afternoon, and it will hit the shop shortly thereafter. So, there you have it. Which brings me to what I will spin this week. I went and looked in my stash for something interesting to spin, and I have a Moon Rover kettle dyed top in Tom Baker, and this is actually in Falkland. I had thought it was in Superwash Merino, but it is in Falkland, and it is all these fun colors. It looks like we have some yellow and some kind of a springy green and a bright pink and kind of a darker, maybe a little bit sagier green and some orange or ochre, and then ending in this purple. And I can't exactly decide how I want to spin this. Moon Rover does her braids in long color blocks, which a lot of people use to spin for socks. And what they do is they tear it into strips and then end ply for great stripy socks. And I can't decide if that's what I want to do because I will get less yardage for that, and I'm not really great at end ply. Navajo ply or chain plying, but I can't decide if I just want to tear it into small strips and do my usual 2-ply madness, or whether I should really preserve the fact that these are in long color strips. So I really can't decide. That's going to be a decision at the wheel tonight or tomorrow to try and figure out what I want to do. So that's what I'm going to spin this week. Okay, thank you for hanging in there. I know this is a super long episode. Some of you will be happy with that, some of you won't. So I just have a few more things to do. I need to draw for the winner of the kit for the Lost at Sea shawl, and I forgot to bring those over here, but it is 2 skeins in, one is Quaddy Bay Gray in the Merino, and one is in the Northern Lights top in Ocean Waves. It is the exact same colors used in my shawl pattern. And I said that I was going to do, I had leftover fiber that Louette had generously donated, and I went ahead and spun up. So your prize is sort of from Louette and me. And I said that I was going to send out those 2 skeins of hand spun with a hard copy of the pattern to the winner. We had 60 posts in that thread. The first one was mine, and I went ahead and drew for one winner from post 2 to 60, and the winner was post number 47, which is Knitting Mary B. So Knitting Mary B, please contact me, send me your address information. I went and looked, and it looks like you are an American who is living in Brazil right now. That must be super exciting. But please send me your information on Ravelry, or you can email thestashbuckler@gmail.com, and I will get that prize out to you. And thank you all for entering. The pattern is free, so I hope you will consider knitting it, even though I only had one set to give away. And I am thinking about some other patterns and some things to do in the future. So there will be future giveaways and maybe more patterns coming out. So the last thing that I want to do before I sign off for today is it is November 1st. And last year we had a great knit along that I really, really enjoyed doing. And I called it the gift along. And what it was I knew that a lot of people were knitting holiday gifts and things for other people. And so I wanted a place where you could basically enter those to win prizes. So I called it the gift along, and it ran from November 1st through December 31st. And there were prizes, as there will be again this year, although I haven't decided exactly what. Probably a skein of handspun yarn and maybe some patterns. So I wanted to announce that I'm going to open that again. What I will say is I'll basically follow the rules from last year. Anything knit between November 1st and December 31st for someone other than yourself. It can be a holiday gift. It cannot be a holiday gift. It just has to be something for someone other than yourself. Other crafts are welcome. So you may knit, crochet, weave. You can sew. You can spin. Pretty much crafty things, but I am definitely multi-craftual, so we will accept all of those. Works in progress can count if you do at least half the work within the crafting period. So if you have something that's less than half done or half done now and you want to throw it in there, that's fine. If you're just weaving in ends and putting on buttons, I would prefer you not enter it. So I will set those threads up. They will be open by the time you see this podcast, and I hope that you'll come join me. I have a few gifts that I'm going to craft along, and I will of course post them in the chatter thread because I'm not eligible for prizes, but I have I have two things that I want to make for my husband, and I may count Roxy's sweater as one of those because it is a holiday gift for her, and I also need to do, before the end of the year, I have some baby gifts that I need to do. So they're not specifically holiday gifts, but they are items for someone other than myself. So I will probably put those in there. Might be time to open the bunny factory again. So please join us for that. That will be over in the Ravelry group. And like I said, there will be some prizes. And I know you're working on these items anyway, so why not enter them to win prizes? Oh, and I should also say that double and triple and quadruple dipping, you can enter them into as many different knit-alongs or whatever as they qualify for. That doesn't bother me at all. So, thank you for sticking with me through this long episode and for coming back after my vacation. I missed you all so much, and I missed podcasting and getting to share what I was working on. And obviously, I had lots of things to show you today. But I hope that you have had a wonderful few weeks and that you're enjoying your weather and your season wherever you are. It's starting to get chilly here, and it makes me think of the holidays. And I'm just kind of getting into the spirit. But I will say, as I always say until I see you next, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.